Yes.
Now, the me, is it possible to completely empty the mind of the me? Not only at the conscious level, but deep, at the deep unconscious roots of one's being.
I think it's not only possible, but I think it's the price that we must pay for being, or being good, or being true, or being at all, living. Is the price to live? The price we must pay is to rid ourselves of meanness.
Is there a process, a system, a method to end the me?
No, I don't think there's a process or a method.
Therefore, there is no process. It must be done instantly. Now, this we must be very clear.
Must be
because
done.
All the religions have maintained processes. Whole evolutionary system psychologically is a process. If you say, and to me that's a reality, that it cannot possibly be a process, which means a matter of time, degree, gradualness, then there is only one problem, which is to end it instantly.
Yes, to destroy the monster at one step. Yes.
Instantly.
Yes. It's unquestionably what must be done. We must destroy meanness.
No, destroy, I won't use the ending of the me, with all the accumulation, with all the experiences, what it has accumulated, consciously and unconsciously, can that whole content be thrown out? Not by effort, by me. If I say by me, I'll throw it out, it is still the me.
Yes.
Or if I throw it out by exertion of will, it is still the me. The me remains.
It is not, clearly, in my mind, it is not an act or an activity of the mind, nor an activity of the will, nor an activity of the feelings, nor an activity of the body, which will help me to see me. Pardon me.
No.
Will help me to see.
See, yeah.
And since we in this world are so wrapped up with doing, with having, with acting, we really don't understand reflectively and profoundly what takes place before we act or before we possess. And I think that it's incumbent upon us to reflect backwards and see that there is seeing before seeing takes place, in the two senses of the word seeing. Just as there is loving before one becomes aware of loving. And certainly just as there is being before one becomes aware of being.
Yes, but
it's the question of reflecting backwards, inwardly, deeply enough.
Just a minute, sir. That's the difficulty, because the me is at a conscious level and at the deeper levels of consciousness. Mm-hmm. Can the conscious mind examine the unconscious me and expose it? Or the content of consciousness is the me?
No, the self transcends the content of consciousness, but the me may well be the content of consciousness. But the me is not the I. The me is not the self.
Wait. I include in the me the self, the ego, the whole conceptual ideation about myself, the higher self, the lower self, the soul, the body. All that is the content of my consciousness, which makes the I, which makes the ego, which is the me.
It certainly makes the me, yes. I unquestionably agree with that it makes that objective self that I can examine and analyze and look at, compare, that I can be violent with others about. It's explanatory, if you will, or the summation of the whole thing, which you put in the word me. It's explanatory of a history, of a whole multiplicity of present relationships, but it's still not getting at the reality.
No, the reality cannot be got at, or it cannot flower, if the me is there.
Whenever, as I said before, whenever I insist upon viewing you as me, then the reality cannot flower and freedom will not be.
So, can the content of my consciousness, which is the me, which is my ego, myself, my ideations, my thoughts, my ambitions, my greeds, all that is the me, my nation, my desire for security, my desire for pleasure, my desire for sex, my desire for to do this and do that, all that is the content of my consciousness. As long as that content remains, there must be separation between you and me, between good and bad, and the whole division takes place. Now, we are saying the emptying of that content is not a process of time.
Nor is it subject to methodology.
Methodology. So, then what is one to do? Let's look at it. Let's take time a little bit over this, because it's quite important, because most people say you must practice, you must strive, you must make a tremendous effort, live discipline, control, suppress.
I'm very familiar with all that.
That's all out.
That has not been helpful.
Not at all.
No.
So, how is the content to be emptied with one stroke, as it were?
I would say, and maybe we could pursue this together, the content cannot be emptied by a negative action of repudiation of the content.
No, obviously.
So we must not, that is a blind alley.
Obviously.
We must not approach it that way.
By denying it, you are putting it under the carpet. I mean, it is like locking it up. Yes. It is still there.
It's a pretense.
That just, one has to see this. One has to be tremendously honest in this.
Yes.
Otherwise one plays tricks upon oneself. Yes. One deceives oneself. I see clearly, logically, that the me is the mischief in the world.
Well, I don't see that so logically as simply intuitively.
I mean, all right.
It's not the result of a discursive act.
No, of course
it's not a dialectic.
Analytical dialectic. You see it. You see a selfish human being, whether it's politically high or low, you see human beings selfish and how destructive they are. Now the question is, can this content be emptied so that the mind is really empty and active and therefore capable of perception?
Probably the content cannot be simply emptied. I think that the content can be put in a perspective or can be seen for its inadequacy or its inappropriateness by a very energetic act of simply seeing. That's what I said in the beginning, that so long as I look at the truths of any given religion, I am not finding truth itself. And the way I discover the relative value of the truths of any given religion is precisely by seeing truth itself. In itself, not as an object.
No, I cannot, the mind cannot perceive the truth if there is division. That I must stick to you.
Once you have division of any kind,
that's finished.
Then you're in the categorical level, and then you will not see.
Therefore, my question is, whether the mind can empty its content? Well, this is really, you follow the...
I follow what you're saying, and I think you are devising a new methodology.
No, I'm not devising a method. I don't believe in methods. I think it's the most mechanical, destructive things.
But then you, after having said that, then you come back and say, but if the mind is if the self is really to see, it must empty itself of content. Isn't this a method?
No.
But why, sir, is it not a method?
I'll show you, sir. It's not a method because we said, as long as there is division, there must be conflict. That is so, politically, religiously. And we say division exists because of the me. Me is the content of my consciousness. And that the emptying of the mind brings unity. I see this not logically, but as fact, not conceptually. I see this in the world taking place. And I say, how absurd, how cruel all this is. And the perception of that empties the mind. The very perceiving is the act of emptying.
What you're suggesting is that the perception of the inappropriateness of the content of consciousness, or of the me, the perception of that, the inadequacy of this, or the truthlessness of the me, is in itself the discovery of being.
That's right.
I think we should pursue that.
We should.
Because I wonder if the perception is in fact that negative, or might in fact be very positive.
No.
That it's rather in the simple seeing of the being of things, and it wouldn't have to be me or you in the objective sense. It could be this table or my hand or whatever, that I discover the inadequacy of such things as the content of consciousness, or these objective sorts of things like me or you in the objective sense. So it may be a rather profound display of intellectual, or rather personal energy, that simply makes itself by reason of the display visible to me. It's easy, it's dissipating, and at the same time it's easy to deal with concepts. We've agreed on that. It's easy to create concepts. We've agreed on that. It's easier, I maintain, to see simply.
Of course.
Prior to concepts.
Seeing.
Just simply seeing.
So, there is no perception if that perception is through an image.
There's no perception if the perception is through an image. I think that is very true.
No. The mind has images.
The mind is bedeviled with images.
I just said. It has images. I have an image of you and you have an image of me. These images are built through contact, through relationship, through you are saying this, you are hurting me, and it's built. It is there, which is memory. The brain cells themselves are the residue of memory, which is the image formation, right? Now, the question then is, memory, which is knowledge, is necessary to function. Technically, to walk home or drive home, I need memory. Therefore, memory has a place as knowledge. And knowledge as image has no place in relationship between human beings.
I still think that we are avoiding the issue at hand, because I think what you have said relative to the question of memory is, as you have suggested, terribly important. But I don't think that memory, or the repudiation of memory, like consciousness, or the repudiation of the content of consciousness, is the solution to the problem. I think what we have to do is say, how is it, Krishna ji, that you, and I'm not talking methodology now, but I know that you have seen, how is it that you saw, or that you see, and don't tell me what you eliminated in order to describe to me what
how I saw. You simply see.
Yes, now suppose you wanted to say to someone who had no such experience, you simply see, because I say the same thing myself all the time. Well, you simply see. And people say, you simply see how? And we must somehow or other, if we are to be teachers, deal with
Yes, I'll show you.
Let me take you by the hand and I will show you how to see.
I'll show you. I think that's fairly simple. First of all, one has to see what the world is. See what is around you. See. Don't take sides.
Yes. I think our terminology may get in the way here. Suppose rather than say one must start by seeing what the world is, we would start by saying one must see the world. Not concerned with natures or categories.
No, see the world.
Yeah, know what's.
See the world.
See the world.
That's the same thing. See the world.
Yes.
See the world as it is. Don't translate it in terms of your concepts.
Now again, could I say, see the world as it is ising?
Yes, put it there.
Does that help? I mean, we're trying to...
See the world as it is. You cannot see the world as it is if you interpret it in your terminology, in your categories, in your temperament, in your prejudices. See it as it is. Violent, brutal, whatever it is.
Or good or beautiful.
Whatever it is. Can you look at it that way? Which means, can you look at a tree without the image of the tree? Botanical and all the naming. Just look at the tree.
And once you have discovered, and it's not easy in our world to discover, the simple experience of seeing the tree without thinking treeness, or its nature, or as you say, its botany and things of that kind, then what would you suggest is the next step in the pursuit of seeing?
Then seeing myself as I am.
Underneath the content of your consciousness.
Seeing all, not underneath, I haven't begun yet. I see what I am. Therefore, self-knowing. There must be an observation of myself as I am, without saying how terrible, how ugly, how beautiful, how sentimental, just to be aware all the movement of myself, conscious as well as unconscious. I begin with the tree, not process, I see that. And I must see this way myself. The hypocrisy, the tricks I play, for the whole of that watchfulness, without any choice, just watch. Know myself, knowing myself all the time.
But in a non-analytical fashion.
That's there, of course. Therefore, but the mind is trained to be analytical. So I have to pursue that. Why am I analytical? Watch it. What we being analytical? Seeing the futility of it. It takes time, analysis, and you can never really analyze, whether by a professional or by yourself. So see the futility of it, the absurdity of it, the danger of it. So what are you doing? You are seeing things as they are. Actually, what is taking place.
My tendency would be to say that when we discuss this, we may use these words like seeing the self in its fullness with all of its negative and positive polarities.
Yes.
Seeing the self in its fullness, and then realizing the futility of analytically looking at certain dimensions of the self, and then saying, but I still must see.
Of course.
Because at this point I have not yet seen. As all I've seen are the analytical categories I've used to take myself apart somehow or other in little pieces.
That's why I say, can you look at the tree without the knowledge?
Without the prior conditioning.
Prior condition. Can you look? Can you look at a flower and without any word?
I can see how one must somehow or other be able to look at the self. I must be able to look at you, Krishnamurti, and not use the word Krishnamurti. Otherwise, I will not see you.
That's right.
This is true.
That's right.
Yes. Now, after I have learned through thinking to say somehow or other, I must see you and not even use the word.
Or the word, the form, the image, the content of that image and all the rest of it.
Yes. Whatever the word denotes, I must not use.
So that requires tremendous watchfulness.
Yes. It requires...
watchfulness in the sense, not correction. Not saying I must or I must not. Watching.
When you use the word watching, and I think again because we are teaching, we must be careful of our words.
Being aware, it doesn't matter what word uses.
Watching has the connotation of observation, and observation has the connotation of putting something out there to look at under a microscope, as a scientist would do. And I think this is what we don't want to teach.
No, of course. Of course.
So now, if you could use again, Krishna ji, the word watching...
Instead of watching, being aware. Choicelessly aware.
Choicelessly aware. Fine. All right. Now, this we must do.
Yeah. Choicelessly aware of this dualistic, analytical, conceptual way of living. Be aware of it. Don't correct it. Don't say this is right, this. Be aware of it. And we are aware of this so intensely when there is a crisis.
I think we have another problem that precedes this one by an inch. And I think the other problem is, what kinds of questions can I ask myself in order to be aware of you and not use the categories, or to be aware of the fact that in being aware of you, I am using the categories and the stereotypes and all these other funny images that I use all the time? Is there some way in which I can address myself to you using certain kinds of words, not ideas, words that don't relate to ideas at all, using certain kind of words that don't relate to ideas, that somehow or other will teach me, or teach you, or teach whomsoever, that there is something more important or more significance in you than your name, or your nature, or your content, or your consciousness, or your good, or your evil. What words would you use if you were to teach a young person or an old person, because we all have the problem? What words would you use in order to make it understandable in a non-rational, or rather in a pre-rational way, that you are more than your name connotes?
I would use that word, I think, be choicelessly aware. Choicelessly aware. Because to choose as we do is one of our great conflicts.
And we, for some strange reason, associate choice with freedom, which is the antithesis of freedom. It's absurd.
Of course, of course.
But now, so then to be freely aware.
Yeah, freely, choicelessly.
Not in the sense of choicelessness. Freely aware, yes. Now, suppose that someone would want to say, but sir, I don't understand completely what you mean by choicelessly aware. Can you show me what you mean?
First of all, choice implies duality.
Choice implies duality, yes.
But there is choice. I choose that carpet better than the other carpet. But there, at that level, it is choice must exist. But when there is an awareness of yourself, choice implies duality. Choice implies effort.
Choice implies a highly developed consciousness of limitation.
Yes, yes. Choice implies also conformity.
And choice implies conformity.
Yeah.
It's cultural conditioning.
Conformity. Conformity means imitation.
Yes.
Imitation means more conflict, trying to live up to something. So there must be an understanding of that word, not only verbally, but inwardly. The meaning of it, the significance of it. That is, I understand the full significance of choice. The entire choice.
May I attempt to translate this now?
Yes.
Would you say that choiceless awareness means that I am somehow or other conscious of your presence to the within of me, and I don't need the choice? The choice is irrelevant. The choice is abstract. The choice has to do with the categories. When I don't feel, having seen you, that I must choose you, or choose to like you, or choose to love you, that no choice is involved, then would you say I have choiceless awareness of you?
Yes, but you see, sir, is there in love choice? I love. Is there choice?
There is no choice in love.
No, that's just it. Choice is a process of the intellect. I explain this as much as we can, discuss it, go into it. But I see the significance of it. Now, to be aware, what does that mean, to be aware? To be aware of things about you outwardly, and also to be aware inwardly of what's happening, your motives, your anxiety. To be aware, again, choiceless. Watch, look, listen, so that you are watching without any movement of thought. The thought is the image. Thought is the word. To watch without thought coming and pushing you in any direction. Just to watch.
I think you used a better word before when you said
aware.
To be aware.
Yes, sir.
Because it's an act of existence rather than an act of the mind or the feelings or anything. So then I have to somehow or other become, eventually, and therefore be aware in a precognitive sense of your presence.
Be aware. That's
and this antecedes choice.
Yes.
And it makes choice unnecessary.
There's no choice. Be aware.
No choice.
There's no choice.
Be aware. Choiceless awareness is.
From there, there is an awareness of the me. Awareness, how hypocritical, how, the whole of the movement of the me and the you.
But sir, you're moving backwards now.
I moved so that we related to. So that there is this quality of mind that is free from the me, and therefore no separation. I don't say we are one, but we discover the unity as a living thing, not a conceptual thing, when there is this sense of choiceless attention